Good evening and welcome to the special Glendale Transportation and Parking Commission meeting of September 15, 2025. My name is Marina Gaboyan. I am the clerk of the commission and I would like to read the following statement. For public comments and questions during the meeting, please call 818-937-8100. City staff will be submitting these questions and comments in real time to the appropriate person during this meeting. I will now call this meeting to order. The time is 6:04 p.m. Item 1A, roll call. Commissioner Bartrasov?
Here.
Commissioner Bonston? Here. Commissioner Ordubagian?
Here.
Commissioner Shahbazian?
Here.
Commissioner Avagian?
Here.
Student Commissioner Mukherjee?
Here.
Student Commissioner Torres?
Here.
Next item, 1B, flag salute. Please rise for the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2, posting of the agenda. The agenda for the September 15, 2025 special meeting of the Glendale Transportation and Parking Commission was posted by September 12, 2025 before 5 p.m. on the bulletin board outside of City Hall. Next item is item 3, approval of minutes. Minutes of the Special Transportation and Parking Commission meeting on July 28, 2025.
I'll move.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Okay. It has been moved by Commissioner Avagian and seconded by Commissioner Bonston to approve the minutes. Commissioner Bartrasov?
Yes.
Commissioner Bonston?
Yes.
Commissioner Ordubagian?
Yes.
Commissioner Shahbazian?
I'll abstain. I was not present at that meeting.
Commissioner Avagian?
Yes.
Item 4, presentations and appointments. Item 4A, selection of chairperson pro tem.
Good evening, Commissioners. Aaron Israel, I'm your Senior Assistant City Attorney. This item is on the agenda because Chair Avagian's term expired in August. Your selection of your next chairperson is on for your next regularly scheduled meeting per previous commission action. So to facilitate the orderly progress of this meeting, the commission is being asked to select a chair pro tem, which is why the clerk of the commission has been facilitating the meeting thus far. The chairperson pro tem will preside simply for the duration of this meeting. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, but the clerk can entertain nominations for the office of chairperson pro
Am I
tem.
allowed to be the pro tem, or I'm just?
Yes, you are allowed to be the pro tem, Commissioner Avagian.
I do have a question. So we are not voting for the chair, or are we selecting a chairperson?
Not tonight, Commissioner Shabazian. The commission moved that item to a date certain. So based on the prior commission action, it was agendized for a future meeting, a specific date.
Okay. So isn't that a little confusing? Because should we
It's-
do it together? I'm just trying to.
It's the action that the commission took.
Okay.
So that is the direction that staff followed in agendizing this meeting.
So are you looking for a motion for a pro tem, chair pro tem?
So Commissioner Ordubagian, it would be a nomination. You could submit a name, and the clerk would.
Submit Shauna Bonston again for being a chair pro tem.
I'll second it. Do we have to like change the seats and everything?
No.
Okay. Okay. Then I'll second it.
And to be clear, this is just for this one meeting.
That's correct.
Yeah. Are you okay with that?
Thank you. What a surprise. I think I'm blushing. Do you have a script? No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you're.
Thank you so much.
So Commissioners, as a point of clarification, the clerk will call the roll, and when she does so, you would simply say the name of the person that you are voting for Chair Pro Tem, or an abstention if you're abstaining.
Okay, roll call. Commissioner Bartusoff,
Bonston?
Commissioner Bonston,
Yes?
Commissioner Ordubegian,
Bonston.
Commissioner Shahbazian,
Bonston.
Commissioner Avagian.
Bonston?
Thank you, and yes is Bonston. Thank you so much. Okay, yeah, wow. So we've done the approval of the minutes. We've done a selection of the chairperson pro tem. And next up is item 5, action discussion items.
Item 5A, presentation of the draft mobility element during the public comment during the public comment period. Motion to note and file the Department of Community Development presentation of the draft mobility element.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Vilia Zonatidis. I'm the Deputy Director of Long Range Planning for the Community Development Department, and I am pleased to come before you to present the draft mobility element. So, the city has undertaken a general planned element update of its land use element, its mobility element, and the development of an environmental justice element. So just to quickly go over, general plan is a high-level policy document that guides the city's future development, land use, transportation, and community priorities. It is a long-range plan in that it essentially addresses development over the next 20 to 30 years. The land use element and the mobility element are significant topical elements of the general plan, and the environmental justice element is a new element that is required by state law when you are amending two elements of the general plan. After a multi-year effort in conjunction with other various interdepartmental staff members, and that would include the Public Works Department, police, fire, Glendale Water and Power, we are now in the process of presenting to the public and to the commissions the draft elements themselves. The land use element was released on June the 30th. There was a deadline, but it has been extended to allow for review and comment in conjunction with the mobility element. The mobility element itself was released last week on September the 3rd, or I believe 2 weeks ago, that is. And that particular element also does not have a deadline at this point, though the city will provide a 30-day notice before the closing of the public comment period. The environmental justice element actually did close, and that public comment period lasted from June 30th to August the 29th for a total of 61 days. Quite a bit of information, and all of the draft elements themselves are available for public review and comment on the GlendalePlan.com website. So back to the draft element. The last comprehensive update was back in 1998, and this element provides the framework for mobility needs of all users. The objectives of the updates of the circulation element, which is now deemed or titled the mobility element, include developing the goals and policies and associated actions to guide decision-making related to complete streets, walking and bicycling, transit carpooling, traffic demand, environmental health and air quality, parking, and goods movements. The objectives and updates include illustrating the long-term roadway vehicular classifications and preparing new maps identifying various modes of transportation, identifying necessary network improvements and routes for emergency response and good movements. Obviously, the element is going to comply with all of the requirements of the California Government Code, including such items such as Senate Bill 743, which changes the congestion metrics used from level of service to vehicle miles and traveled. And then also the Assembly Bill 98, which addresses warehousing and logistical facilities and their transportation impacts on surrounding communities and neighborhoods. And last, it's meant to be user-friendly, integrating tables, maps, and call-out boxes moving forward. The draft mobility element, I'd like to point out, is built on recent plans, and this would include the current 2012 bicycle transportation plan and the citywide pedestrian plan. The mobility element is broken up into 7 overarching themes, each with its own goal and associated policies and actions. Note that the goals are generalized ideals that provide the direction for action for future conditions. The policies are statements which refine the goals and guide the course of action that the city must take. It's important to note that the policies are guides for decision makers, not decisions themselves. And last, the actions are associated implementation actions that the city undertakes to help achieve the goals and the policies. First goal, or first topical section, would be the complete streets. And the purpose is to establish a safe, connected, and inclusive street network. And these would be for all users, including drivers, pedestrians, cyclists, and transit riders. Note that this section reframes Glendale's mobility network around people throughput that is, rather than vehicle capacity. And this would align with the sustainability and Vision Zero. So unlike the circulation element, which was really focused on mobility based on vehicular traffic, this one is a multimodal, complete streets focus. Policies include promoting complete street design through a suite of multimodal facilities and strategies, and definitely prioritizing the safety, sustainability, and public health overall. The various actions obviously include creating a citywide network of multimodal streets, and this would be new classifications and map, which I'll go into later in the presentation. Developing and implementing roadway design standards that support the complete streets, and the roadway design standards, if you recall, were presented to your commission, to the TPC, back, I believe, on July the 28th. So note that the roadway design plan is actually going to City Council later this month. So this is working in tandem with the mobility element. Next up, we have active transportation, which would be the walking and bicycling. The purpose of this section is to encourage active transportation as a cornerstone for mobility, health, and sustainability. So this section, it positions walking and cycling as everyday, safe, and convenient travel modes, and that complement the land use and housing growth in the city. Policies include expanding bikeways, improving sidewalks, coordinating with regional partners such as Metro, and enhancing ADA compliance. And actions include implementing the bicycle and pedestrian plan improvements, requiring new developments to provide walking and biking connection, and prioritizing filling in the ADA network gaps for walkability. Next, we have public transit, ride sharing, and carpooling. The purpose of this section is to maximize the use of existing and future transit and shared mobility investments. This section ties mobility directly to Glendale's land use strategies by supporting the housing and employment near high-quality transit and enhancing transit services and amenities in high-demand areas. Policies here, again, prioritizing transit services and amenities in densely populated locations, encouraging transit-oriented development, and expanding ride-sharing and microtransit. Actions, again, include partnering with Metro and Beeline to implement transit priority treatments, improving first and last mile connections, such as by the Larry Zarian Transportation Center, and for future planned BRT stations along Glen Oaks. Existing and future local and regional traffic demand, which would obviously be aimed at to safely and efficiently manage vehicle operations while aiming to reduce vehicle miles traveled. Again, we're speaking to SB 743, which changes the congestion metrics from level of service, which would be the level of service A, B, C, and D that we would and F, which we would typically see from level of service to vehicle miles traveled. Again, this particular section shows how Glendale is modernizing mobility and managing traffic demands to comply with that state legislation while also addressing daily operational needs. Policies include maintaining connectivity, using technology to increase network efficiency, updating our traffic demand measures, reduce trips, and planning for new technologies such as autonomous vehicles, which we know are on the city streets right now as well. So actions include monitoring traffic flows, requiring development projects to analyze impacts, and balancing growth with sustainable mobility. Next, we have environmental health and air quality. This section ensures that mobility planning directly supports environmental sustainability and public health in terms of reducing greenhouse gas emissions and meeting state and regional climate goals. Again, we're looking at requiring transportation demand management programs or updating those. The city currently has one in place for the downtown, but this would be an update citywide. Promoting alternative fuels and EV charging stations, encouraging land uses that reduce trip lengths. Again, we're looking at essentially TOD, transit-oriented development. And actions would include updating the city's TDM ordinance, integrating VMT analysis into CEQA review as required by state law, and expanding low-emission vehicle infrastructure. 2 more to go. Second to last, parking. This section shifts Glendale's approach from expanding supply to actively managing the demand in the existing supply. So again, you're managing the current supply and also balancing the neighborhood needs with the economic development. Policies include requiring adequate off-street parking, maximizing efficiency of existing supply, and engaging communities in the decision-making process. Actions include implementing additional residential parking permits for areas impacted by adjacent commercial uses, exploring car share parking, reviewing the minimum parking requirements. There's some discussion whether or not we even have to have minimum parking requirements, but again, this would be an ultimate review, what those minimums might be, and creating a citywide parking management strategy. And last but not least, good movements. This section directly responds to AB 98, which is the recent state legislation for logistics and facilities. This would essentially be those big warehouses or Amazon delivery warehouses, that is, that requires local governments to update their general plan circulation elements to include designated truck routes. And this ensures that truck routes avoid sensitive populations in residential areas. So purpose of this is to accommodate freight needs while protecting neighborhoods and community character. You're looking at policies that would restrict traffic on local residential streets, emphasize the use of the freeway network, and monitor evolving freight technologies. And actions would include maintaining a designated truck route network, as shown in the map on this slide, and updating it as land use changes, and planning for increased e-commerce curbside demands. So with that, in addition to these overarching goals, policies, and implementing actions, we have an update to the roadway classification table, as well as an update to the roadway classification map. The map you see on the left-hand side is the current circulation elements street classification map, and the one on the right would be the multimodal classification map in the proposed mobility element. Those were obviously, I should say, a handout was given of an enlarged multimodal classification map, which is figure M-1, and all of the figures that were presented during the presentation were also included as figures within the mobility element themselves. So currently there's 7 street classifications in the circulation element, and those include freeways, okay, which are identified on the existing map, but they're not called out as a separate street classification in the updated element. We also have major arterials and minor arterials, which have now been reclassified to major mobility thoroughfares, and these include 3 subclassifications in the new mobility element. The current map also features urban collectors, community collectors, and neighborhood collectors in the circulation map, and these are now grouped under collector streets in the mobility element, and with 2 subclassifications. We're going to go into the various subclassifications in just a moment, and a signature street overlay, and this remains a distinct context-driven overlay in the mobility element itself. So, the new street classifications, as noted, there are 4 primary groups, would be major mobility thoroughfares, collector streets, local streets, and signature streets. So major mobility thoroughfares are the main corridors that carry the highest volume of people, vehicles, and goods. And these would be such as Brand Boulevard between Glen Oaks Boulevard and Broadway. There are 3 subclassifications, and these speak to bicycle priority thoroughfares, transit priority thoroughfares, and major mobility thoroughfares that are both bicycle and transit priority. So in speaking to bicycle priority thoroughfares, these would be streets such as Verdugo Road north of Cañada Boulevard, and these maintain a high person throughput that incorporate vehicle lanes alongside high-quality bicycle facilities tailored to the context. Transit priority thoroughfares, and these would be streets like Colorado, east of Pacific Avenue, fall within the transit priority thoroughfare classification, and this focus would be on the vehicle lanes plus high-quality transit services and facilities to support significant person throughput. And we have bicycle and transit priority thoroughfares, and these combine both bicycle and transit priorities, like Glen Oaks Boulevard west of Brand Boulevard, and these integrate vehicle lanes, quality bicycle infrastructure, and robust services. So they actually have dedicated transit lanes and dedicated bike lanes as part of the bicycle and transit priority thoroughfares. Next, we have collector streets, and these would be collector streets such as Chevy Chase Drive, east of Glen Oaks Boulevard, and these are the connections between Glen Oaks major mobility thoroughfares and its local streets, and they primarily serve local traffic consisting of the city's residents. With that, we have 2 subclassifications, collector streets that are designated as bicycle priority, and these would be streets such as Santa Carlotta Street up in North Glendale. These support local person throughput with the implementation of both vehicle lanes and context-appropriate high-quality bicycle facilities. We have collector streets that are also designated as transit priority, such as Columbus Avenue between Broadway and Colorado, and these support local person throughput with the implementation of both vehicle lanes and high-quality transit services and facilities. So these are geared, again, the different classifications are based on the orientation of the street. Local streets make up the largest component of Glendale's street network in terms of mileage, and these residential streets connect the city's single and multi-family housing to its collector streets. And last but not least, we have the signature streets, and these are defined by unique identities centered around specialty retail, dining, and other context-driven uses. And these offer typically distinct streetscapes and pedestrian-focused facilities and amenities. So this is not a separate standalone street classification. This is essentially an overlay that can be placed on major mobility thoroughfares, collector streets, or local streets. And examples of this would be Kenneth Village, would be Honolulu Avenue in Montrose, parts of Brand Boulevard in the downtown Pacific Plan area, and parts of Broadway from essentially from Central Avenue to Glendale Avenue. The street classifications are broken down further in the mobility element and highlighted by its characteristics. As you see here, these would be the 4 types of major mobility thoroughfares, and these primarily range from 4 to 6 lanes for major mobility thoroughfares, and there's a distinction between the daily vehicle volume capacity and the acceptable operational volumes. These would be daily trips, up to average daily trips. Again, if, for instance, for the major mobility thoroughfare, that would be 4 to 6 lanes, up to 36 36,800 for 4 lanes of average daily trips, slightly higher if you're 6 lanes, and then acceptable operational volumes, maximum speeds of 40 miles per hour, and key facilities. This would include on-street parking, bike lanes, transit stops, and buffered sidewalks. If you're bicycle priority, the shifts down from 4 to 6 to 2 to 4 to accommodate the additional bicycle facilities and infrastructure. Obviously, the daily volume capacities are lower. Again, slower traffic to make sure that the bicycle facilities and lanes are appropriately addressed. Lower operational volumes. There's a lower speed down to 30 miles per hour. And here on these major mobility thoroughfares, bicycle priority, you'd have buffered separated bike lanes and reallocated space and sidewalk improvements. For major mobility thoroughfare, transit priority, again, you're looking at reducing the number of lanes to accommodate those travel lanes and facilities, lower daily volume capacities, lower acceptable operational volumes. Here you'll have speeds of approximately up to 35 miles per hour, and bus lane only lanes, transit priority in treatments and improvements, and bike lanes and possibly sidewalks. Now, for the major mobility thoroughfare bicycle and transit priority, again, you're looking at 2 to 4 lanes, lower volume capacities, vehicle volume capacities, lower acceptable operational volumes, lower speeds. And here, what you'll notice is that you actually have specific transit line improvements, specific physical bike lanes, multimodal reallocation, and you would not have parking on these major mobility bicycle and transit priority streets. For collector streets, for all 3 collector streets, you're looking at approximately 2 travel lanes, 1 in each direction, lower vehicle volumes of approximately 20,000 average daily trips, even lower for acceptable operational volumes, lower speeds. And here you might have sharrows for the standard collector streets. For bicycle priority, you would have bike boulevards or bike lanes, traffic calming, and sidewalks. For transit priority, again, you would have transit priority curb lanes, bike routes, and sidewalks. Next, we'd have local streets. Again, you're looking at one lane in each direction, 2 lanes total. Here, the volume drops significantly because, again, these are the streets that the residents would use to actually get to the collector streets, and the collector streets would be used to get an access to the major thoroughfares, and the major thoroughfares would then lead you in and out of the city themselves. So again, the average daily trips is down, or I should say up to, that is 2,500, lower speeds to 25 miles per hour. Here you would feature on-street parking where feasible, bike routes and sidewalks, and signature streets. Again, these vary in design because they are an overlay for the underlying street classification. Volume trips are not defined, operational volumes are not defined, and again, this is context sensitive. So all of this actually is correlated with the roadway design plan that was presented to you. So these work in conjunction with the roadway design plan moving forward, and the roadway design plan would then be implementing somewhat of the complete streets concepts. So they are tied and work together. So that brings us to the fact that this draft element is available for public review. This presentation is an informational presentation to the TPC. There is no decision being made this evening. This is purely for your information and education. It's for the information and education of the public. It's also an opportunity for them to provide feedback, for your feedback as well. The drafts are available online at glendaleplan.com. We have an online comment submittal format, which is located on your screen. And if you actually use the QR code, it will bring you to the Glendale Plan and the comment screen. So you can submit your comments directly online on any of the elements. This would include the land use element and the mobility element. Or you're welcome to submit comments directly emailed to us at glendaleplan@glendaleca.gov. We really encourage everyone to go to GlendalePlan.com and subscribe, because when you subscribe, you are getting regular updates from staff ourselves. We're the ones that are sending out these notices, such as the ones that were sent last week and today regarding the TPC presentation. So we'd really try to inform the public of what is going on with these general plan element updates. So we really encourage everyone to subscribe. We're also available online. And obviously you can reach us by telephone if you call 818-548-2140 and ask to speak to the long-range planning staff. The long-range planning staff consists of myself. We also have Teresa Santolina, who's our principal planner, and Jackie Martinez, our planner. Here, I would like to shout out to Fred Zordovan, who is the principal mobility planner, and he was the project manager up until very recently. So he is available to answer any questions regarding the mobility element, and he is obviously our in-house technical expert. We also have Tim Ernie from Kittleson and Michael Sahimi, who were the two individuals who have been working with staff in regards to drafting this mobility element, and also preparing the transportation impact analysis, the VMT analysis as well. But with that, just like to let you know that the next steps would be the draft EIR. In addition, obviously, let me go back one slide. So during this comment period, your comments are then going to be taken under consideration, and staff will be reflecting that, or at least providing that feedback to City Council and the other commissions when we do go back before them. But next steps would include the draft environmental impact report, because all three elements, this would include the land use element, the mobility element, and the new environmental justice element. All of the impacts related to these three elements are being analyzed under one program level draft environmental impact report. This is set to be released in early January of next year. It will include the transportation impact analysis based on the VMT per SB 743. The elements themselves are also going to be finalized and presented to the city boards and commissions for recommendations, along with the draft environmental impact report. We are going to be coming back to you for an official recommendation later on in the spring or summer, depending on how the schedule goes, of next year. We will also be going to the Sustainability Commission as well as the Planning Commission for recommendation prior to going to City Council for adoption in the later part of 2026. And this also includes outreach as well during the public comment period. So we've been meeting regularly with various groups. We've met with HOAs with regards to the land use element, and we have upcoming meetings as well planned. So this also has been printed in the Glendale News Press announcement and press releases. Again, we also have a robust social media campaign. We've been identifying the release of the mobility element on the city's Instagram page, on Nextdoor, and I believe this has been touted as well on individual subsequent boards and commissions, as well as various groups citywide. I'm looking to Commissioner Arderbegian, who is familiar with this because we have been at the Montrose Shopping Park for individual meetings, as well as the Harvest Market as well. So with that, thank you so much for your attention. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you might have. Any technical questions, I will turn over to our experts here in the audience. But we're looking forward to hearing any feedback you might have, and I believe that there are a number of individuals in the audience that would like to speak as well.
Pro Tem, if I may make a quick comment.
You want to make a comment before
Yes,
we
I
pull up?
just-
And I do have just one,
Oh, you want to go to the,
well, I can do it after, but just to clarify, I have one speaker that I'll call in a moment. You wanted to start with a question?
I can just, if you don't mind, do you want me to go first or that okay?
Are these questions
Well, it's
technical
just,
or?
you know, I read unfortunately, we received this proposal a little late. And my understanding is that this is a proposal that you're going to present to the council for adoption, correct?
Commissioner Ordebegian, this would be the draft mobility element right now is during the public comment period that does not have a closing date as of today. And we are receiving public comments. So no, this is not something that the TPC is acting on. And this is not going to be presented to city council anytime soon. This will be analyzed under the environmental impact report. And obviously it might be updated based on feedback from both the public and the commission.
And just to clarify, I appreciate that you're presenting a very preliminary draft to us at the kind of the beginning of the process in a way, kind of laying out that it wouldn't come back to us for recommendation for many, many months and then go to council for approval.
Yeah. It just, you know, as I was reading the proposal and this package that you sent us, there were a bunch of questions that I had, and it got so confusing. So I just wrote a statement, and I'd like to read that to you. So hopefully, if you see any answers in that question, it'll be fine.
Do you mind if I just ask the public comment and then we can
Not at
start
all.
our
Not at all.
questions and
Sure, of
discussion?
course,
Thank
yeah.
you so much. I have one noted public comment, or let me see. One is oral communications. This is mobility plan Beth Brooks. And I don't know if anyone else is on the phone. Okay, great. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. It would be so great if we had these elements written in plain English, like a summary page for the public to actually understand. That would be very helpful for every element I read. This one is short; it's only like 32 pages, but that you get to the point right away, so that we know what the takeaway is. A couple of things from looking at this, I'd say the vehicle volume capacity going from 37,000 to 18,000. Where do those 20,000 trips go? Like, do you expect everybody's going to get on a bus? I mean, 20,000 trips that were in a car are suddenly going to go on a bus? I don't know. I don't know what the number of people who even take a bus in Glendale is. 85% of people use a car, an average of 2 cars per household. Glendale has a high volume of driving. I don't know that you're actually, this is not New York. I'm from New York. You're not going to create New York. You're not going to put a bus in front of somebody and say, I'm going to take that bus. Let's say if I want to go to the doctor, if I go to Kaiser and I don't drive anymore because of eyesight, but I have to walk 5 blocks, to finally get to the doctor. I was walking with a cane. That is not easy, so it's better to have a car. I'll be honest with you. You're not putting people in cars just because you're making it more miserable for people to drive, or you're adding buses. Trust me, this is not happening. Let's say Sears is going to build 643 units here on the corner of Central and Orange, which means a minimum of 1,000 cars. And you're going to figure maybe half of those people are going to get Amazon deliveries per day. Let's imagine that's 500 trucks and the 1,000 cars that will be, or 500 cars that will be going to Central. And if you think these people are going in a bus also that will be competing with the cars, that's another fantasy. I would love to see in these elements price tags. I would just love this. I would love to see cost-benefit analyses. I know that this is very early, but it would be so great. I see so many lofty ideals, and I never see numbers. Even a ballpark, like, let's do this, a couple billion later. I think people really need to know what this means, because I'll be honest, if you're building also more bike lanes and bus lanes, and you're taking away car lanes, if you think that people are going to be less frustrated, they're going to be more frustrated. And also, I would love to see the police and fire reports based upon what they think the impact will be on response times. This is very important. I don't see anything here, and I think you probably have that. What do the police and what do the emergency responders say? A couple of seconds is a life saved. And especially with dedicated lanes, what is a police car going to do? Jump over that lane through that there's a barrier and he can't get over there, but he can't get over there with a car? I think this is very dangerous, I'll be honest with you. I think this is a huge, huge, huge mistake. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Commissioner Ordubegian,
Yes.
you have a prepared
Yeah, I prepared a
statement?
statement, and I just wanted to read. It's
Chairperson, I think we have one more comment coming in.
one more. Sorry.
Thank you very much. You just on hold one more, 2 more minutes. All right, Gigi Garcia, please welcome.
Hello, my name's Gigi Garcia. I'm a resident in North Glendale. I also own a business in the Montrose Shopping Park, and I'm very concerned about, first of all, the mobility report, which is clearly not in plain English for just anyone to understand it. I mean, just to muddle through it is exhausting and is not in plain English, and for the general public to know what's going on is very daunting. I live right in Oakmont Woods. So right now I have the La Crescenta project going on, which I've been opposed to from the beginning, and for several reasons. One, most importantly, I feel like, is the fire escape plan, which I don't think anyone had thought of before we had the January fires. And I feel like this is putting all of us in danger up there. So before this plan goes forward, I hope that there is some due diligence done, and instead of just throwing up some concrete barriers and putting in bike lanes that have not been tried and true, I hope that there's a plan to put in temporary things for the bike priority plan, whatever that is, because I still don't think I understand it. But I just wanted to say that I think if you're living in my neighborhood and response time is even delayed by a few seconds, if it's your family, I think you'd care a little bit more. So I just wanted to get that off my chest, and I'm still against the La Crescenta plan. I hope it changes. I hope there's something that comes along that they decide to at least, and I think bike lanes are great. Don't get me wrong. I ride my bike to work up the hill. And, but I think either one lane, but 2 lanes with no escape route, I think is a dangerous situation. And to put us all in that, again, with a new mobility plan that may not be tried and true is a very dangerous thing. Thank you.
Thank you. They keep coming. Next speaker, Riley Lenthal. Welcome.
My name's Riley Lenthal. I just moved here from San Diego a couple months ago after graduating college. And I just came this evening to learn more about the city that I'm now living in. But while, you know, this element is in its beginning stages, as it is a draft, and there's not as much detail as there's going to be, I am still happy to see that there are changes being made to make the streets safer for pedestrians and people on bikes. Because I do have a car, but it's, you know, gas is expensive, and I do love being able to walk around. I can walk around much better here than in San Diego. And the main thing is cars going fast and not having much regard. So I'm really excited for the bike lanes to be protected and more space given to people who aren't in cars, and more care given to public transit, pedestrians, and people on bikes. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, please, Commissioner.
All right, well, thank you very much, Madam Chair. I just want to reiterate our public comments that we have earlier. This plan is not in plain English. The outreach is not done correctly, and oftentimes we get lost in translations. We don't know exactly what is it that we're looking at, and the time frame to respond to these things is very short. Having said that, I'm just going to read these things that I wrote down. The mobility element, as currently drafted, references the 2012 Bicycle Transportation Plan, BTP. This is the latest adopted plan, but it is now 13 years old and outdated. Furthermore, the BTP has not even been properly footnoted in the mobility element, which adds the confusion. The roadway design policy, the RDP, being referenced in this element has not yet been adopted by City Council because it is still in draft form. I cannot legally or substantively be considered as part of the mobility element. For this reason, the mobility element is incomplete. The absence of the adopted BTP and adopted RDP means two of its foundational components are missing. Any further review of the mobility element at this stage is premature and misleading to the public. Until both the BTP is adopted, updated, and the RDP is formally adopted by the City Council, this mobility element should be withdrawn from public circulation. Posting it on city websites and soliciting public comments creates the false impression that the element is comprehensive and ready for review, when in fact it is not. So just want to add this to the public comments that we heard today. Honestly, the outreach is not there. I mean, you've seen the ones that we had up in Montrose. People don't understand exactly what it is that City of Glendale is doing. So we need to create some sort of a easy understand exactly what's happening to us here now. So with that, I'm going to open up if anybody else has any comments or questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll maybe let staff, provide some context. And I guess maybe I'll jump on that with a bit of a question about the way that I think of elements is kind of laying out the policy. We have goals, we have policies, and we have action programs. And some of those action programs are implementing documents or programs that then have further detail. Sometimes they're in a place where there's a version that's already been approved a long time ago, there's going to be a version that's updated. So maybe you can kind of speak to some of the sequencing, because I imagine it's also impossible to bring everything up to date at the same time. So, maybe describing a little bit about how the city plans for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Pro Tem Bonstein. You said it perfectly. This particular mobility element calls out implementation of the BTP. The current BTP is the one that was approved in 2012. Right now it is being comprehensively updated. When it is going through the particular public process and is updated and adopted by City Council, the mobility element will then have to reflect the newly adopted BTP. So we will make the amendments if that does not correlate with the approved BTP, but for now, the actions are to implement the current BTP. The roadway design policy, the same thing. There is an action that calls for the implementation of the roadway design plan, knowing that it is moving forward. When this particular mobility element is not on the same timeline, the BTP is going to be presented to City Council at the end of this month, is anticipated to be adopted this fall of 2025. And the mobility element, the draft mobility element, is at this point in time a draft. It is to the best of our ability at this particular time, and it is going to be ultimately considered by City Council next year following the adoption of the roadway design policy. And perhaps, again, I'm not sure what the schedule is for the BTP and its comprehensive update, but the mobility element, if it at that time does not reflect the adopted BTP, it will be amended to reflect that.
Can I add a comment to that, and then I want to open up to other topics. Actually, one of my comments was kind of the request to consider a definitions or it's not definitions, like an index or reference. So I've seen this in other plans and documents where you list out all the components, the kind of related components or programs that might exist elsewhere in the city that are. And some of them they're referenced in the action plan. I found it a little overwhelming. I was kind of making a list of the different ones, and some of them I hadn't heard of, and some of them I took a moment to go on the website and check out. In fact, I was wondering if the roadway design policy is the same as the design standards. Just some questions like that. So that where I'd seen other examples of the kind of list of all the programs and even the year that they were implemented or if they're in the process of being updated, I think that would be helpful to be able to compare.
Thank you, Chair Pro Tem Bonstein. This is the perfect type of comment that we would like to hear at this juncture. This is the public comment period. It's a very substantive comment that would probably be helpful to many, the same way that we actually outline key mobility related terms and call out boxes throughout the element. And this was in the mobility element itself. There's a list of the terms and features. This is on page M-3 and M-4. Anything from bus rapid transit to micromobility to mobility hub, park and ride, we can do the same thing, listing out the various programs and what dates those various plans were adopted. So great suggestion. Thank you.
I was going to ask one question regarding, in general, timelines, because, and then let me know if I'm out of context and if my more informed colleagues want to correct me and enlighten me. But whatever comes to our attention, the plannings, proposals, everything is 20 to 30 years. And I've been around transportation topics for about 5 years, since 2020 that I got into micromobility development and things like that, and I joined the commission, and this commission, everything comes and it says 20 to 25 years, 20 to 30 years, and then within this 5 years, nothing major really happened. And a lot of things, we've had scenarios and cases where there are things that come forward that we need to change it because it's been adopted 15, 20 years, and then the demands have changed, things have changed, and this thing is not really compatible with whatever before was approved and now whatever the scenario is. And sometimes I feel like we're just never going to witness those changes because it's going to get postponed so many times, and then it's going to add another 20 years after 20 years. So when are those things going to finally happen? So please, someone answer to this question, if applicable.
Commissioner Vagian, it is very difficult to determine, what those standards are, especially when we're working on a mobility transportation related element, because this involves public works, this involves capital improvement plans, capital improvement financing, and things like that. What I can speak to at this point in time is the mobility is a high level overarching plan. It is supposed to help the decision making process for City Council to determine what are the next steps, what are the priorities, what needs to be done in order to create this multimodal network, both for all users, whether it's walkers or bicyclists or transit riders or drivers. This is the intention right now, and you're right. Sometimes these plans are really outdated. This one in particular was last comprehensively updated in 1998, which we know that is 27 years ago. Things have changed. Things like autonomous vehicles and microtransit and those type of multimodal. There wasn't this type of attention paid. 27. If these types of features were even in existence. And so right now, this is the comprehensive update. We do amendments to elements as needed to reflect new trends. So there might not be a comprehensive update every 5 to 6 years, but there are updates sometimes throughout the 20 to 30 year timeline. So it's not that this is going to be a static document that's going to be fixed and finite for the next 20 to 30 years. It might not be 27 years to the next update. We might see trends in transportation planning and in mobility that would require us to take a look at it and comprehensively update the mobility element, maybe in 15, 20 years. I don't have a crystal ball at this point in time, but based on what we're looking at right now and the current trends and the current network needs of the city, this is the draft that is being circulated for public comment. and for consideration.
Do we have, let's say, I don't know, deliverables and milestones for deliverables? Let's say we're going to implement this within 3 years, and then next 3 years, something like, because this is just a plan, a theory, basically. Is there a work deliverable timeline that we have that for sure we're going to be doing this within 3 years? Like, at least, like, let's say 10% of whatever we're trying to accomplish, and then, or no, it's just a plan?
Not for
Nothing.
the mobility element in its current state, no.
Okay. It's just very disappointing because I believe you were part of, Commissioner Bartoszov too was part of the bicycle transportation plan that we were working on about 2 years ago. It started, and then I just feel like in 20 years we're gonna have flying autonomous vehicles, and that's not gonna be useful anymore. And it just okay. Well, good luck to us, and thank you very much for the report.
May I, if I don't, I just want a quick moment. You just referred to page M12. Number M-1H, it says utilize the city roadway design policy, which contains minimum and feasible design standards for the city streets network. This doesn't exist. Which roadway design are you referring to?
I'm so sorry.
The page
You referred to a
M12?
page that I hadn't
Well, this is the one.
She had referred to M1 and 2 and 3.
Okay, under M12, if you just look on M12, under M-1H, you know, I read this and then I had so many questions, and it just, this one dawned on me right now. I just, you know, the M-1H, if you read it, it refers to the roadway design policy. At this moment, we do not have a roadway design policy. And why are we referring to it? Which roadway design policy are you referring to?
So Commissioner Ordobegian, if you'd like, we can go ahead and add the word proposed, if that would clarify it.
All right, okay, well, that's what I'm saying. See, it becomes very confusing, and that's why public doesn't understand. And for example, when we did the outreach and we were talking about the bike lanes, we were saying that, oh, it's going to be beautiful. We're going to have trees. We're going to have new sewer lines. Nobody's against this stuff. But we never mentioned that lane's going to be taken out and there's going to be 3 feet concrete buffer in there. Those are the things that we need to clearly convey to the public so they understand what is it that they're getting into. I just bring a point out.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
unfortunately, I did not work on that project. I'm not aware of the circumstances, so. But hopefully that clarification by adding the word proposed addresses your concerns.
Okay, thank you for the presentation, and to staff who worked on this draft element. Some quick clarifying questions. So is this the first time this document is coming to the Transportation Commission?
Yes, it is. It was just released on September the 3rd, so this is essentially the first review by any city commission.
Okay, so I would just, having served on, this is now my 3rd term as a commissioner for the city, I think it would have been better if we had seen this in advance of it getting public, because you have some transportation planning professionals on this commission that some of which of us have strong opinions about how this was drafted. And I think the stage at which it's in, which is now public, as you and I both know, and as we go through the EIR process, it's much harder to make significant changes when significant changes are needed. So I'll just say that I would have liked for this to have come to us sooner. The other question, or now on to my questions. When I'm comparing the existing and the 2045 projections, can you just clarify for us and the public how we've reached those projections? And once I get a response, I'll explain why I'm asking.
Commissioner Bartusev, the projections, so essentially the base year that was analyzed is 2024. So the traffic and transportation individuals ran the traffic model based on the 2024 data. came out with a baseline. Then we took a look at the proposed land use element changes, and based on the realistic build out, there was an update to the traffic model to show the projections given the time year of 2024. So what we're comparing is the baseline of, 2024 to 2045. And so those would be the two maps that you see as part of the draft mobility element, and the, on pages, I should say, on figure M-5 and M-6. So you're looking at the existing daily vehicle traffic volumes in the thousands, and then you're looking at the general plan build-out year. And again, this would be the build-out year based on the proposed land use element designations, and looking at the proposed densities, and, or I should say, the proposed densities and the floor area ratios for the residential, commercial, and industrial uses.
Okay, and how does that model factor in modal shift, alternative forms of transportation? We had just heard from our fellow commissioner, the unpredictability of the future and autonomous vehicles and so on, BRT, for example. How is that factored into the model for us to best understand this future projection? And I'll further say that the land use projections, you know, a lot of people could argue that is a theoretical exercise. Let's just say this really, that projection is not reality. We are not going to see a fully built out application of whatever we're seeing in the zoning plan, zoning map. So I guess the reason I'm asking is I want us to understand that these projections are not really what will happen. And if you layer in the VMT reductions and our goals for reducing VMTs.
And thank you for making that distinction, because what is looked at and analyzed under the land use element is assuming that every parcel can be developed to its maximum potential. It looks as if the city is completely flat with no topography. It looks as if every parcel meets the minimum lot size in the buildable area. So what you're looking at is the maximum build out, or realistic maximum build out. And we know firsthand, and as you pointed out, that just isn't realistic, actually. So the build out will be less. And so you're looking at, but for the sake of CEQA purposes, for the draft environmental impact report, we are required to look at the maximum build out and to analyze the maximum impacts associated with vehicle miles traveled. But with that, I'd like to actually call up Tim Ernie from Kittleson to go into the nuances for the travel demand model.
Hi, good evening, Commissioners. Tim Ernie with Kittleson Associates. We're part of the consultant team who developed the transportation mobility element and also developed the updated travel demand model, working with Fred and his staff as well. So, not to go into too much detail, but the city of Glendale has its own travel demand model, which looks at the more closer knit community of Glendale compared to the rest of the SCAG region. So this model was developed as what's called a sub-regional model to the SCAG model. So it looks at the entire SCAG region, but then pieces out Glendale, updates the roadway network, the land uses, the demographics, all those type of things, and reruns it. So it's consistent with the overall SCAG model, but has a little more finite detail for the city. So we developed this model, as Vilya said, we updated it to 2024 based on counts that were done as part of the ongoing citywide CTMS project, which did 200 to 300 additional roadway and intersection counts. So we updated the model to account for 2024 conditions. And then we projected 2045 conditions using the land use network, as Vilya mentioned, that was developed as part of the land use element. We received a list of projects from Planning and Public Works to include in terms of transportation changes. So there were things such as the NoHo Pass BRT project, There were a host of other projects that are being proposed, or actually, sorry, being approved, like as part of the CIP, such as the door and grade separation and a couple other ones. So those were all coded into the model, and then we ran the 2045 conditions. We did not specifically account for including autonomous vehicles. We did not specifically account for significant changes to modal patterns. It was based on the overall modeling parameters that SCAG had developed. So hopefully that answers that basic question.
Yeah, it answers it for me from a technical perspective, and I think, Vilya, your comment about this being like a technical requirement is an important distinction to make for the public. Because we've heard this on the land use side, where these projections expect an increase in our population by 150 or 1,000 people or whatever it is. It's just, these are scary figures that people are picking out of the document and are using it against you during these outreach opportunities. So I don't think it's particularly useful to put it in the way that it's put. And maybe there's a way for you to put some kind of disclaimer or asterisk to further explain to the public that this is literally the worst case scenario that has near 0% chance of ever happening. So I think that's important to clarify again for the public. 2 more points. Please be patient. So I am a transportation planner. I am going to dig into this because it's really important to me. So this conversation about the draft bike plan and how it integrates into this plan. So are you essentially saying that if the bike plan gets adopted, it will supersede whatever bike elements are in this plan?
No, Commissioner Bartusev, we would then amend the mobility element to ensure that there's consistency with the adopted bike plan.
Okay. I don't understand.
I'm saying that correct. So if there is an updated bicycle transportation plan, and for instance, if during the public process there are roadways that are amended for the BTP that are not reflected correctly or as shown in the mobility element, those roadways or those BTP improvements that haven't been addressed that might be in conflict with the mobility element, the mobility element will then be amended to ensure that there are no conflicts between the two documents.
Right, and that's not just with the actual bike facilities, it's also similar with goals and policies. So if the bicycle transportation plan has a different goal and policy associated with bicycle travel, that will be incorporated into the amended mobility element as well. And just so you know too, this is the same with any other transportation related plan that may move forward with the city. So for instance, if a new TDM ordinance goes into effect, we would need to update the mobility element to reflect any goals, policies, or objectives associated with that as well.
Okay, so just so it's crystal clear for the public. So if there is, let's provide specific examples. So I'm looking at the major mobility thoroughfare. This is the chart. So M10. The major mobility thoroughfare calls for bike lanes where feasible for corridors that are 4 to 6 travel lanes. So with the BRT, for example, I know there's an active discussion about whether or not those bike facilities are going to be protected or they're going to be a buffered bike lane. So if it turns out that the mobility plan or the bike plan or the BRT project calls for a specific type of bike facility, it will supersede what's in this document versus the other way around.
So in terms of the bike facility or the bike lane?
I mean, so if a bike facility is proposed, let's say in the bike plan, that is in conflict with these specific guidelines, the bike plan treatments would supersede what we're seeing here today.
Good question. I don't think we know the answer yet. My understanding is there would have to be a dialogue between the two. So there's two different things here. So the multimodal street classification. So we have the major mobility thoroughfares, right? And we want to make sure that we give flexibility to the city to incorporate changes to the roadway network without having to go back and modify the mobility element, right? So we want to have ones that say, hey, this street has a vision to have bike facilities on that. We want to make sure then what the requirements are that are listed in those charts, and then also the RDP, when that does become finalized, that the documents are talking to each other. So for instance, if we have a 6-lane roadway and the bicycle master plan or transportation plan ends up saying, let's just put a Sharrow on that street, well, that kind of goes against the policies that we've already established. So there needs to be that discussion of, well, we have one document says this, one document says this, which is the correct thing to do?
Well, I mean, herein lies the question, who makes that determination? Does that happen at the staff level behind closed doors?
No.
Is council making that determination?
We,
This
Commissioner Brock,
is an important question.
this would definitely rise to the level of city council consideration and determination in a public forum. So I would imagine that during the BTP process, if there is I don't want to say a conflict, but if there is a difference, inconsistency with the mobility element, at that point in time, staff would be raising that inconsistency and presenting it to city council to determine the BTP proposal has this, the mobility element has that. Which direction would you like to proceed in? And to weigh the pros and cons at that juncture. If it then means amending or changing the BTP proposal during their consideration, so be it. If they choose to then, in a public setting, decide, no, we're moving forward with the BTP, even though perhaps there is an inconsistency with the mobility element, they would then be directing staff to go back and amend the mobility element.
I just have one
This
more.
would not,
It's your
this would
question.
not
I
be
just wanna-
at the staff level.
If it's on this, you can
I was just
piggyback.
going to say, isn't the BTP scheduled to go to council for adoption earlier next year?
The BTP, I believe the environmental is being completed, and I would like to ask Fred in terms of the timeline, since he is in charge of that particular project.
From what I remember, that one goes ahead, and then it's the circulation element, if it's on track, goes end of the calendar year next year. So it feels like maybe it'll be adopted by the time this project is completed, but just asking for clarification.
Madam Chair, yes, the BTP is on the way, but there is some changes based on what we're doing. At this time, I cannot put any date on it, but we're working on it. The EIR for the BTP is in draft, but we haven't published it yet to find out what's going to happen down the line. So I foresee maybe in next year, early year, we might be able to finish it.
Thank you, and this is the final EIR that you mentioned, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So it feels like it might be approved or adopted prior to circulation, but that's a great question, I think, to be able to know what would happen. I'll hand it back to you.
No worries. Just one more point. So the last and arguably for me the most important topic is looking at this chart and understanding the lane widths. So I think, sorry, I already forgot the consultant's name.
Tim Ernie.
Tim. Thank you, Tim. I know that you had mentioned flexibility, and we had talked about this theme at our last discussion about the roadway design guidelines, and how through our conversation we were finding more and more that it is actually very inflexible. I'm finding the same theme here with the very prescriptive lane widths that are mentioned as part of this element. So whether we're talking about the left turn lane for the center turn lane, the specific travel lanes, even down to the bike lanes and the parking lanes, I'm really having a hard time understanding why these specific lane widths are mentioned in this element. So just from a broad perspective, can you quickly answer, do we have to have these lane widths in this element? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, so.
But let me, if I may, let me
Yes,
kind of
please.
explain kind of where they came from. So there's a couple things to take into consideration. One is the RDP, or the draft RDP, went through a process to identify what Public Works' vision was for the requirements for various street classifications and roadway design characteristics. What the table here reflects is that information, but we wanted to look at it in terms of minimums. So if you are to put in a travel lane, what is the minimum width that travel lane should be? And so that's where you see some of them have a 10-foot wide lane, because we don't want to go any narrower than that. They could become wider, but if you go narrower than 10 feet, that could become an operational or safety issue. So the information in this table is really meant to be focusing on the minimums, what the standard has to be. It can always go bigger than that, but we don't want to go lower than that. So same thing with a bike lane. We don't want to have a bike lane that's less than 5 feet wide. If it's 8 feet wide, that's fantastic, but we don't want to go less than 5 feet wide. So that's why you would see a 5-foot nomenclature associated with a bike lane.
Yeah, I understand that, and the 5 foot is very important, but I'm more interested in the center turn lanes being 10 to 14 feet, which is crazy to think that we would have a 14-foot center turn lane.
I think in some of those locations, it has to do with trucks, because trucks sometimes do need a wider turn path. But once again, it's that flexibility. I think, Villia, that it would be possible, if the commission directs this way, to remove the lane width requirements if that is something that's desired, right?
We can definitely take the commission's comments and move
Sure.
those forward.
And to that point, because I know we're not providing direction, I think my general comment is that by having these lane widths, whether it's for the bike lane or the center turn lane or the travel lane, is really putting us in a position of not having flexibility. And one clear example I can think of is Wilson, between Glendale and Verdugo. Those lanes are probably at minimums. So I'll imagine it's a 10-foot center turn lane. Maybe the parking lane is 8 feet. It might be less. But if we're having such strict requirements on these lane widths, we may not be able to get a center turn lane on a collector street in the future, or we may not be able to get a parking lane on a street that currently doesn't have parking. Say we wanted to entertain a 7.5-foot parking lane, and that the difference was the residents have parking or they don't. And the difference between that is a 6-inch or 12-inch requirement that's listed in this policy document. So I don't find it particularly useful. I don't think it's beneficial for us as policymakers and as engineers who are designing a street. I say leave it up to the engineers to make their best judgment based on what the community needs for that particular corridor. I feel strongly about that. This is the same comment that I had in the design guidelines. I'm seeing it here, and it's triggering as well, because I think it's a problem. And just like a quick tangent, because I'm on this topic, the major mobility thoroughfare, it says bike lanes where feasible. And these are streets that are 40 miles an hour. Again, Glen Oaks is one example. It's a street that's 40 miles an hour. I don't think anybody in this room would agree that having a standard bike lane is safe along that corridor. In fact, if you look at Vision Zero results and the bike plan results, you'll know that it's not. So why does it say bike lanes specifically, whereas in other segments and other thoroughfares on collector streets, we specifically call out buffered bike lanes, protected bike lanes? Why is that distinction there for a street where the most protection is needed?
Commissioner Bartusev, would you mind pointing out which street classification?
Yeah,
because I see under major mobility bicycle priority that is specifically calling out.
Yeah, so it would be major mobility thoroughfare. It's the first row on M10.
M10, so here.
And what I'm saying is that if the room is there, and if it's something that the city is entertaining for any particular corridor, in this case, I'm talking about Glen Oaks, but why are we calling out a subpar facility when it could be possible that something better is available?
I'm not seeing the bike lane on major mobility thoroughfares.
It says bike lanes were feasible and consistent with the city's
Oh, with the
RDP.
RDP. I see.
I think that could just be a simple terminology change from lane to bike facility or buffer bike or protected bike facility. I don't think that was meant to indicate it only would be a bike lane there, because you are correct that those type of roadway facilities would probably require additional space rather than just a simple bike lane.
Yeah, yeah, so I think that just illustrates my greater point, is that this is, in my opinion, far too prescriptive. I think we should give flexibility and latitude to our local engineers to make those determinations. And so I have an issue with the way that this is presented. And again, if this was caught sooner, I would have been happy to share these comments with you, and, you know, maybe it would have been presented to the public differently, but here we are. Okay, that concludes my comments. Thank you, everybody, for being patient with me.
Hello. Thanks for the hard work that Planning Department, Public Works, Mobility Team, and the consultants have put in here, and for the element that you have brought for us. Actually, I had one question, and this is because I don't know about it. And it was mentioned that public outreach was not performed. I was wondering if you can give us a very short background of what public outreach was available for the draft document.
So public outreach consists, to date, public outreach consists of email blasts. We have, I believe, around 1,000 subscribers to the Glendale Plan, and that includes all of the major contact individuals for the HOAs, the home property owner groups, major stakeholders throughout the city. It also, in addition to the email blast notification, there were notices printed in the paper regarding its release. There obviously are opportunities for the city or for the public to learn more at city commissions. This is one of the public forums where both the public and the commission is able to learn more about the mobility element and to provide feedback. We actually are scheduled to go to City Council with a similar type of presentation. And again, this is informational only, no decision being made. It is purely to then educate the City Council and the public, and to provide another forum where both the City Council and the public can provide feedback. That particular presentation, I believe, is scheduled for October 21st. So again, another opportunity to provide feedback. We are making ourselves available. We've actually been rather busy with the land use element and the public outreach being done for that. But we are obviously available to speak to any group as well to go through the mobility element. It's been unusual because with the email blast and whatnot, we've received very limited feedback on the mobility element. I think the majority of the feedback that we've received on GlendalePlan.com is still related to the land use element. That's still out for public comment. So we anticipate more comments to come. This is a great start. The feedback as well following this presentation, it's going to be available on YouTube. We're going to direct the public to watch this presentation since it does sort of encompass, a general overview of the mobility element goals themselves, as well as the roadway classification updates and, further technical explanations by the consultant. So thank you. And continue on with any forums or any type of additional requests that we might have.
Thanks.
For further groups.
Yeah.
And again, not to say that the social media is going to replace any type of public outreach, but we do have notifications on a regular basis with the CDD's team and the city of. Also, I'm not sure if Marine can bring that up, but we actually, if you don't mind bringing up glendaleca.gov, please, and sharing your screen.
And this is an ongoing effort till this
is an ongoing effort. And there you have it. So this is the first thing that pops up when you go to glendaleca.gov, the very first item under the city's banner. Whoop, except now it's changing because it changes, it rotates. There you go. You have it. It unfortunately doesn't read well on the TV screen, but it's the mobility element. It brings you to the draft mobility element. It brings you to the comment form available online. And so every single person who logs on to Glendale CA, the city's website, sees this banner first. So if that is not providing information to the public, we'd be more than happy to entertain any other suggestions that we might have, that anyone else might have.
Thanks for clarifying. I'll get into some policy items that I wanted to talk about. So went through it, and I feel like there's some policies that we might be able to add on, or maybe it is being worked on, because I know you mentioned that we were also, or I know that we're working on the environmental justice aspect. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was equity and access. So there was some language about ADA outreach, but I didn't see anything specific about like equity framework. I don't know if that's something that we're going to be tying in with environmental justice, but I wanted to, like, some of the things, how will mobility policies address low-income, transit-dependent areas in the city, seniors or youth population. And then other question regarding that would be, or any clear metrics, actually, do we have any clear metrics that shows underserved neighborhoods, specifically like South Glendale, for example, get equal infrastructure investments?
Thank you, Commissioner Shabazzian. It's a perfect, tie into our environmental justice element, because that particular element, which the comment period has closed, but it went to. I apologize, my microphone was off. So just to reiterate that the environmental justice element actually speaks to equity and accessibility, and in particular to the environmental justice communities, which the South Glendale area is primarily all within, or as I should say, they're deemed environmental justice areas. And so there are specific policies and actions related to the environmental justice when it comes to, access to transit or access to the parks and open space and supermarkets and utilizing transit for those types of goals and policies. So.
Okay.
I'm sort of circuitously answering your question, but yes, those particular policies are within the environmental justice element.
Thank you. The next item, and I feel like, well, I'll just tell you, it was funding and implementation. So we have great goals. They're, ambitious. They're great. We talk about new bikeways. We talk about mobility hubs, traffic calming. But there isn't any funding roadmap. And also, are there any projects that are going to be prioritized? I know that's probably something that, eventually we're going to be looking at the CIP. I don't know if this is the forum that would, be calling things out specifically, but also kind of talking about how will the mobility element policies align with, for example, Metro's Measure M, Measure R, the ATP grants that are coming along, SS4A, and just things that are out there. So I feel like without phasing or prioritization, the plan might risk becoming more vulnerable, kind of what the commissioner or chairperson, I'm sorry, not anymore, Agabagian, mentioned. So I don't know if that's something that we're planning to put in there or any kind of roadmap that will kind of guide us there. Thank you.
Because
For this project, we don't have really a specific project to go through. So this is going to be a guideline that take us to the bicycle plan. We want to go ahead and implement the bicycle plan. Then we go after all of those measure arm, and ATP project that we funding, and we are very successful with the funding for it. But the point is that this plan, circulation element, is not really specific to a specific project. It's a guideline to whatever we can do as part of other project that we are doing. So the implementation is coming under the pedestrian plan, bicycle plan. But, as one of the commissioners said, if we have that flexibility to be able to do more, it would be great.
So I guess as things go forward, prioritization will be given to projects as they come along.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, of course.
Thank you for that. Appreciate your comment.
No problem.
Let's see. I also wanted to, I think this was brought up, but climate resilience. So air quality is addressed, but climate adaptation isn't. So I think with, the changes we see in climate, it would be great to see some policies regarding extreme heat, wildfire evacuation. Thankfully, we're not in a flood zone, so we don't have to worry about it. But how would we, what our evacuation routes will be? Kind of taking into consideration that as we go in the next 20 or so, we might be seeing more of those kind of natural disasters. So it'll be great to see some goals related to that. So basically, what I had for myself here, our capacity under climate stress events. So will we be able to evacuate and, have the first responders and fire to get to the location needed. And that's just a comment. I think if it'll be great to be adding some goals. Sorry, I think you had a comment that you wanted to mention. I'd be more than happy to address a few items. No, please go ahead.
So Commissioner Shabazian, in regards to climate adaptation and climate resilience, the city actually recently adopted its climate action adaptation plan. I believe it was at the beginning of this month or last month. And so what we could do is make reference to the climate action adaptation plan and any transportation related actions within that plan. I believe I'm looking at the consultant. We can certainly do that. And if the commission as a whole would support that amendment, or I should say that inclusion, we can move that forward as well. In regards to the evacuation response map, that is actually a map that's included in the mobility element. Evacuation routes are also called out in our safety element. Our safety element was also recently updated and adopted by the City Council, so the amendments are in line with the most recent state legislation regarding evacuation during times of wildfire, especially in regards to wildfire, so it updated to the most pertinent and applicable state statutes, and so addressing that is wildfire and evacuation routes. So our safety element is up to date and is also reflected in regards to the mobility element response routes as well. So both of those are correlated.
Thank you. I'm really outdated. I apologize. Thanks for clarifying.
No, please.
I think emerging mobility was discussed, micromobility, autonomous vehicles, but policies regarding curb management. I think that's rideshare and again AV fleets. I think actually, as I was coming here, I saw one of those little carts trying to deliver, and it was stuck between two trees. But I mean, this is new, and in the next few years and decades, it's going to grow. So how are you addressing curb management and maybe putting in some policies and goals for that? How about drones? You know, we do have the robots here, or any other logistics that might be coming up. I know that, for example, there are some talks for Olympics that there are going to be some drone taxes. I know this is a bit more futuristic, and you mentioned that in the future, as new things come through, we'll be looking at it. But that might be something that we might be seeing in less than a decade in the LA area. But yeah, so just was wondering if we would be, I think it'll be great to put some policies and goals regarding curb management and just emerging mobility.
Thank you. Rideshare and microtransit are actually addressed under M-3.10 and M-311. So, and curb space management is specifically called out as one of the policies with regards to the terms of curbside management, expanded passenger loading zones, and things like that, and that is under M-3.12. So these policies would be driving future decision-making in regards to the, again, unfortunately, it doesn't address drone taxis, but hopefully this would address any type of future implications when it comes to street side, curbside management.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Sorry, I did review this in a hurry, so I apologize if I missed something.
No.
Yes.
And it was also pointed out under goods movements, and so this is the last section under the mobility element related to the movement of goods on city streets. There is also a policy, and that would be policy M-7.2, evolving technologies. And so maintain a transportation network which facilitates and integrates the needs of evolving good movement patterns and technologies by continuing to monitor trends in good movements technology.
Thank you.
So yes, it is addressed in our mobility
Thanks
element.
again. Yeah, that's M-7.2. I appreciate it. All right, let's see. I have a comment, and I know our plan is going to change. This is just the first draft, and things are changing. And we do have, we are relying on, when it comes to public transit, we're relying on Metro and Beeline partnership, which is great. And also we talk about the Metro's BRT, which I think is a great project, but I know that there have been some discussions that might delay the project or even scale back the project. I'm just curious to know if you have any kind of contingencies or strategies for other, in case a project like this doesn't go in. So we'll be able to basically fill in the gaps. Or is it something that as we're going through, hopefully, before we have the final adoption of the circulation element, we'll be able to address? I'm sorry? Mobility, sorry. Sorry about that. I said circulation? Sorry.
No problem. So your question was, forgive me, could you?
Yeah,
is it new technologies, new plans within the gap of implementation?
Looking at the
I'm not
public transit, we talk about Beeline and Metro.
Yes.
We talk about BRT, the NoHo to Pasadena. My, I guess, comment was there is some political discussion and that might cause this project to be delayed or scaled back. So in any situation like this, how are we going to address the gaps that we have kind of relied on the BRT? Because I know, as we mentioned, we talked about the running the model, we actually put in the BRT model in there. So I'm just curious to know if things do change, are we planning to redo the model, or how are we going to kind of fill those gaps?
So the BRT is actually in the design phase. it is 80% complete in terms of the design phase, I believe. That one is moving forward. I believe it is set to begin construction. I'm looking at Fred next year, 2020, at the end of 2026?
2027.
I'm sorry, 2027, correction. And so that is moving forward. It's already been approved, adopted. It's moving forward. And when it comes to this particular gap, we do have the B line, we do have the Metro buses. It is going to continue in terms of status quo for now. The traffic model itself, again, you're looking at 2024 figures and you're looking at the 2045 maximum VMT analysis. And so at this point, if a new project comes up, they will then be looking at the traffic demand model and putting in the actual, and I'm going to let, Fred is waiting here patiently
Thank
to
you.
answer that
No
question, so please.
Commissioner, that's a very good point and valid point, yeah, but we are closely working with Metro in policy decision, in example, with Public Works, of course. We heard that, I heard that as well, that there might be some changes in funding in it. But city at this time doesn't have really clear what we're going to do. If they ask us to help out or no, at this time, I don't know. But we are fully aware of
Thank
what's
you.
going on.
Just so you're aware, and I'm sure you guys are, for everyone else, during our last council meeting, council requested a town hall meeting for the BRT project.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of questions and they want to make sure that folks understand. So I guess that's where this comment was coming from, but thanks for your clarification.
No problem.
I had another question, which our consultant addressed. I was like, did we look at SCAGs, the regional model, but that you kind of mentioned it, so thank you for that. Okay, I think that's it for me. Sorry for all the comments, but that's it for me for now. Thank you.
Appreciate the look. Just to also quickly add that based on your previous comment for the environmental justice communities and the prioritization in those neighborhoods, that is actually addressed under goal M-3 under public transit, ride sharing, and carpooling. This would be policy number M-3.6, key communities, coordinate with LA Metro to prioritize transit services and access improvements for transit-dependent communities, including disadvantaged communities and areas with low vehicle ownership and higher proportions of residents who are seniors and children. So the disadvantaged communities is the actual term used for environmental justice communities, even though the city has elected to, instead of disadvantaged communities, we have used the term environmental justice communities.
Got it. Thank you for that. You know what? I did have one other question. Chairperson, if it's okay for me to go.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention this, and we have the experts here, and they might be able to answer me. But I didn't see any measurable targets necessarily. What I mean by that, we didn't have any policies that set any like numeric goals. Like, for example, we're going to reduce our VMT per capita by X number, or increase our bike mode share by, X number. So I think if we have those kind of metrics in there, policies and goals to reach those, it would be great because we'll actually be able to see a change. What is the word I'm looking for? Mode change or mode shift, usually, a behavior change. It's not easy. But if we put in some goals and are able to, policies and can put some goals with it, that might, help with what we have and as our city is growing. I'm going to say this. I know this is a little controversial in some points, and it's just something to have. I think it is really, it's a burden on a public works and planning department, but we need to work a little harder to get the communities buy-in. And by that, I mean that in the past, we have had projects that have, they're great traffic calming projects, or they might be great ideas. But unfortunately, history has shown that, we get backlash on some of those projects. North Brand being an example. So I think what I would like to say, just being able to kind of put in a little bit more effort. And again, this comes down to Public Works and Planning Department. It's a lot on those departments to be able to kind of bring in the folks and explain. I think this is a bigger maybe picture, what it is that these projects do. Engaging folks more. I know we do our best as much as we can with the budget we have, but maybe more educational events that they'll know what traffic calming is. They'll know what the reason is, for example, for a lane reduction. What warrants a lane reduction? Why a stop sign might not be a good option to have instead of a different metric that can cause safety. And yes, this is not really specifically for the circulation element, but I think what it'll do is if we get ourselves ready and we have people kind of understand, it'll make it easier for us to kind of go forward with our plan and be more successful. It's a more higher level conversation that could happen, but just wanted to mention it. And again, the burden comes down to Public Works and Planning departments, but just wanted to mention it. Okay, I'm done. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I have a few comments and questions, and then I do want to encourage our student commissioners. Feel free to think of something if you want to ask any questions or comments. You often have great thoughts going on, and I want to make sure that you feel comfortable.
And Chair Pro Tem Bonston, we do, I believe, have one more public speaker.
Yes. Is it this card? I'm happy to call that person now, if that makes sense.
At your discretion.
Yes, my discretion is to call this person now. I'm hoping the name is Melanie, unless I'm mispronouncing it, McKinnell. Thank you for your patience.
No. I learned more listening to the commissioners than I did looking at the presentation, to be very honest. I'm Melanie McKinnell. I live on Shirley Jean Street, which is adjacent to Montrose. My first topic I'd like to communicate to the commission, and I applaud all the people up here who have asked for better communication with the public. This isn't just about the mobility plan. This is also about the land use plan. There has been nothing received via mail. It can come with our utility bills. There's ways to get information out to the public. There's a lot of people who are senior citizens. They're not on social media. They're not going online. They're not pulling up charts. So I would urge the commission to help the city planners, as well as I've asked the city council, to please get this information out to the public in a constructive manner, even if it's to say, hey, go to this website. I learned about this meeting tonight through an email I got today. Not very good planning. This is the same thing that's happened on the land use side as well. Fire risk are not addressed either in the Glendale plan or in here. Evacuation routes, it's actually in there as an evacuation route. It says emergency road routes. Doesn't say anything about evacuation routes. So me as a layperson, I'm saying that's the fire and police roads. That doesn't tell me anything about evacuation. So those kind of elements need to be put in here. As you noted, somebody noted earlier, there's not enough detail in here for the public to actually make constructive comments. So what you're going to get is reactionary comments. You're going to get people reacting to things because they don't understand it, because the plan doesn't have any detail in it. I read it, and I could have read it in French. I mean, it made absolutely no sense. I would also say, whether it's the mobility plan or the Glendale land use plan, if you put something in a plan, you very well might not have the desire to do that plan right today, but whatever you put in there and the parameters you put in there, any future commissioners or city councils can put those plans into place. So to your point, let's not put in roads if they have to be this wide. Let's give some flexibility in all elements of this. I had one other thing. And if this is confusing to you as commissioners, and you do this, a lot of you are experts in this, just think how confusing it is to us here in the public. I think that this has been very premature. It's been rushed through. The land use plan was literally, people were finding out about it hours before and just days before final comments were made. So this entire land use plan, the mobility plan, complete lack of transparency coming from the city level, and I applaud people who are asking for that. And we as the public want to partner with you. We all want our city of Glendale to grow and be the best place it can be for future generations. So appreciate your attention to those matters. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll proceed, unless we have additional comments or questions, with a couple of items. I don't know which order. I guess I'm just going to go with this. But I appreciate the comments from the commissioners. I'll not duplicate, but I agree with so many of the insightful questions. I did notice, so in terms of the organization of the report or the mobility plan itself, so much of the focus is on that, the complete streets, which was kind of curious to me. I wasn't sure. There's so many more details in that than there are some of the other sections. And I wasn't sure if that was a factor of the significance, the change, or the importance, which it could be, of the complete streets, or we got into a level of detail, but I guess that was just a question for me because it seemed much more detailed than some of the other goals. And with that, a lot of I guess I would encourage more robust actions, like with more details, similar to how the Complete Streets kind of laid out the actions. I felt maybe in the absence of something more specific, like holding ourselves accountable in future years for being able to figure out what are our priorities and how will we start to implement some of these things. And along those lines, wondering, about progress or reporting. So if there's not a mention of what are the priorities, then is there a check-in moment in the future where we're wondering how much of these things have we accomplished? Where are we with them? I know that I think the city of LA required that. There's some trade-offs. Sometimes it comes too soon, or sometimes it's also a good chance to see what has been started and what hasn't. So I think some of the actions could be a little bit more concrete about what is expected. I did feel that the staff report spoke more about safety than I felt I was seeing in the mobility plan itself. Maybe just maybe some of it is less of the buzzwords, but a little bit more emphasis on both the policies and the actions in terms of safety and equity. I think that would be helpful. I also noticed there isn't a consideration for enforcement programs, and really along the notion of kind of safety for speeding, some of our traffic concerns. I think that could be fleshed out a bit more. I think that was, and maybe this is an aside, but in looking at goods movement and technology, I think an emphasis on equitable evaluation of that. I think it's easy when we're kind of responding to technology advancements to not be thinking about what we're asking for, to be equitable for the city. I can put out, just as an example, those robots that you were referencing that deliver restaurant meals, those are so amazing to me that they are not just destroyed. I'm always like, yeah, go little guy, when I see them, but that is a question.
Messing with
they must. But it is sort of a question about like how we prioritize our public space, so I'm just encouraging us to, as technologies develop and new things are offered, to be in front of it rather than just responsive to it. And then, okay, here's a question. So SB 743, my understanding was that there was a deadline of 2020, so I'm kind of questioning if we're on borrowed time. But this is responding to SB 743 for the vehicle miles traveled, and curious.
Correct. So our traffic model, we actually have BMT guidelines that were adopted in 2020.
Okay.
So the guidelines are in place, except now that these are Mhm.
as part of our mobility element, and then also looking at the transportation impact analysis for the VMT analysis for our CEQA. So
Great.
yes, so the guidelines were adopted and are in place to address VMT, or the SB 743. Great, thank you. And I just want to commend staff from various departments, and just what an endeavor to be taking this on along with so many other parallel projects, including land use. And I think I can see the reasons for doing it, especially for sharing an EIR, but I can also appreciate the complications of so many moving targets and so much heft of content to be considered. That summarizes and finishes my comments. Any? Yes, please.
Really, I just want, thank you, first of all, great presentation. I just want to add, go back to outreach again. We need to do a better job at that. It's just for years and years and years and years, we keep on seeing the same outreach, and the response we get from the city staff, oh, well, we'll put it on the website and everything else, and you don't reach out to find other avenues to be able to let people know what's going on. So for example, on the land use element, we did a very quick outreach. Nobody knew about it. So that should tell you that the way that you're doing your outreach is just not adequate. So we need to change that. For example, there were QR code on your website that directs people to leave comments, but it only asks for first name and last name and email. People had to look through to find out. I noticed it, emphasized it, and they changed it. Or for the RSVP again, people would not get a response. So nobody's checking these things out, and then somebody else has to bring it to your attention. Should not be for a city this size. I mean, you got to be able to be clearly going forward saying, okay, this is how we're going to, and if you hear over and over and over again that we need these presentations to be in plain English, to be a simple way that people can understand, that should be essential for everybody. We are making changes that will have an immediate impact on people's livelihood, on people's bottom line. And we're not taking that seriously. And we're just talking about different opinions that, I have this opinion and I think this will be great. And these are just opinions. We need to get our constituents involved. We need to make sure what we want to do, is it really going to help them or not? And if they don't understand, put it in a way that they actually created. And there's so many homeowners associations around here. There's so many associations that they have a better way of reaching out to public, which you're not utilizing. And that is just should not be. So I really urge you, the city of Glendale, got to change the habit. If you don't have the staff, ask people who can get outreach out to people, ask them their opinions, and then hopefully they'll, put a right pathway for people to understand and participate. There is no participation. Look, how many people we have here? 7, 5, 4, and half of it are city staff. It's just not right.
Thank you for your opinion. And as noted in our outreach efforts, we are doing the best we can. And staff is very concerned when you say that staff is not concerned with regards to outreach. That is clearly not the case.
No, I did not say
we
concern.
are doing
I
our
just
best
said-
efforts.
Okay.
And in our email blast, we do reference all of the HOAs, and there is this anticipation, expectation, and request to portray, to then carry out to their group. So again, we're very open to any other additional feedback that you might have in addition to attending any type of scheduled monthly or weekly meetings or any of the outreach efforts. We'd also like to note that we're going to be at the Fall Festival coming up as well. This is a citywide effort at Pacific Park. I believe, I don't want to go speak into all the various, I know that there are several other public meetings, so if anyone is interested, we'd be more than happy to go ahead and relay them where staff will be making presentations, essentially on this Wednesday, on Saturday as well. And so we invite the public, if you are watching this and you have questions, please give us a call. If this is not, we understand that this is a very in some respects, a very technical driven document. technically driven document. There are concepts that might be really unusual. We'd be more than happy to have conversations. We've scheduled a number of conversations just this week with individuals that, the staff is able to get on a conference call and go through the process. So we are available. We are, again, we're open to other suggestions that you might have. And we'll leave it at that. But we are at most city events. We were at the Women's Equality event last week. We were at the MSPA meeting. And so if there are other future events or any other type of community meetings, we'd be more than happy to attend and to discuss that as well. So
Thank you so much.
Chair Vonston, just as a note, the commission is being asked to note and file this item by staff.
And we still need a motion to note and file, is that right?
That's correct, if the commission has concluded the business of the item.
Any other comments or questions? No
I just, again, wanted to thank the staff. I think you said it so well, but I just wanted to also shout out to you all. It's a lot of work. Thank you.
Yeah, obviously, thank you for the presentation. You did a great job for the efforts. Yeah, I would just repeat. I certainly do side with the public speakers regarding the issues with the wording of the draft, because initially when I received the draft, like the agenda, I couldn't get the comprehend the gist of the draft. I think it should be like in a common language for the public, especially if it has already been laid in front of the public. And yeah, it was kind of baffling. It surely needs to undergo fundamental alterations before passing going forward. And yeah, pretty much that.
Thank you.
I just want to say, I think it's really critical for this plan that the city remains really clear and transparent about where this plan is, what progress it's at, not only so that people can follow it and see what's developing, but so that people can hold the city accountable and make sure that their taxpayer dollars are being used efficiently and that the plan isn't just being shoved to the side or something, to make sure that is what's said is what's going to actually happen. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to note and file?
I'll make the motion.
A second.
Roll call. Commissioner Bartusoff,
Yes.
Commissioner Bonston,
Yes.
Commissioner Ordubegian,
Yes.
Commissioner Shahbazian,
Yes.
Commissioner Avagian.
Yes.
Wonderful. The next item is informational reports.
There are no informational report items on the agenda.
Thank you. The next item then is oral communications. And I do have a speaker card.
Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. The commission may question the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision.
Thank you so much. Beth Brooks.
I just wanted to say that outreach is not quantitative. Outreach is qualitative. And the reason you're having so many meetings for the land use element is because the person communicating to you is not a communicator. That is not their specialty. They are a planner. And you're a planner. And that's why these documents are so dense and they're not clear even to this committee. That's not your forte. And given that it's not their forte, it has to go through a department that hopefully will be created, such as a public information department or a communications department, because it has to go through a filter so that it's in English, basically. Because the people doing these presentations and writing these reports are not doing it in plain English. And when you're writing in plain English, especially for the public, I have an English degree from Vassar College, and I have 25 years in marketing research. I could tell you what's going on with this land use element 15 minutes. You will know everything, okay? I've put together graphs. I've sent information to Mr. Calvert. I know it inside and out. but you cannot keep having the same people communicating to you who cannot communicate and also making presentations that are not communicating to you. It has to go through, I believe, specialists. They either have to, go through everything like you have an editor when you have a company, and it goes through the editor or the proofreader. It has to go through a funnel so that then it gets disseminated to the public. And the first thing when you write anything, who is your audience? Before you put your pen to paper, you have to say, who is my audience? Who am I talking to? Am I talking to another planner? So that I have all these zoning maps, like I don't even know what's going on here. I don't see landmarks. I don't see all the street names. The things are written for each other. They're written for other professionals. They're not written for the public. And that's the reason why outreach is terrible. When I just saw this, here's our outreach. It's on the first page of the website. It said, here's the mobility element. Please comment. I don't even know what that means. Like a mobile home, I'm walking mobily. Like with marketing and advertising, you don't just put a piece, laundry soap and just stand there and say, why aren't people buying my laundry soap? I have no idea. You have to tell them why they should buy your laundry soap. What's good about your laundry soap? Why is it better than the competition? Outreaches, you have to reach out. You actually have to reach out and say, read this, because guess what? 16 parking lots were just, designated surplus to the state of California. And even if we're trying to reassure you that it's not happening tomorrow, it's a ticking time bomb. And it can happen. And it's 8 months, state mandated timing. And then it's another maybe 8 months here plus 10 months. It can happen. We just told the state it can happen. We told the state, we don't need this property. We declared it surplus, and we said so at the March 4th City Council meeting, and we said so because we want it to be used for revenue, okay? It's all there. You can have gaslighting till you're blue in the face, but that's just the reality. But you have to get real with people, and I don't expect you to be able to do that. Somebody has to do that. Some department, some professional, something. We cannot keep getting. There was an 800-page climate plan report. I got through 500 pages. I thought I was going to kill myself. I mean, at a certain point, I had to, go through and say, what are you really saying? There's something called burying the lead, LEDE, in journalism. Don't bury the lead. The lead should be first. What's the impact to the public, the land use element? These 16 properties, here are the properties. It's the parking lot behind the church. It's the baseball field. It's the open parking next to the Civic Auditorium. It's the Florencita parking, the biggest one that you rely on. These things can be turned into housing. Not only that, but the planning department told the city council 6 of them we would like to guarantee for 300 units. We can't get it now, but we're going to look into it, okay? And I had to go through, a whole bunch of documents to find this information out. So you have to have a department. You cannot put out, here, public, please read 500 pages. Here, read 32 pages. Here, read 200 pages. And you still have to go through it and try to figure out what's going on. And you have to be transparent. You have to give the worst case scenario. But you have to give a range. Here's the best case scenario and the worst case scenario. 96,000 extra units in 20,000 in 20 years. You have to tell people that. It'll probably be 50,000, but it could be 96. You want to be transparent with people and truthful so that you keep the public trust. But this outreach is atrocious in Glendale. And if you keep making the same mistakes, clearly you have to do something different. If everybody keeps saying the outreach is terrible, it's because the outreach is terrible. And having another meeting in Montrose is not going to help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 8, commission staff comments and updates. Okay.
Thank you very much for being active in general in the community. I want you a lot to speak up, and it's really important, really informative, and reflects the voice of the community. Those who are not active, I believe they can reflect their thoughts in whatever you're saying. So thank you very much for being there always. Other than that, I also wanted to start saying it was an honor to serve as the chair of the commission. And I love this city, and I love it equally and it's as dear to me as the city I was born in, Yerevan, which is in Armenia, and my heart beats the same way for both cities. And no matter where I go and where I am, I always keep Glendale in mind. And I'm not joking when I say Glendale and Yerevan are equally dear to me. It really is. So thank you very much for making this as a wonderful year. And I'm looking forward to selecting the next chair during our next meeting, and wishing good luck for the following year. Other than that, the Alex Theater celebrated its 100th anniversary, and I was there. We celebrated the 100th birthday of the brightest jewel of our jewel city. So 100 years of comedy, 100 years of music, 100 years of dance, the arts and entertainment. So it was a home of all of this, and I'm grateful we have and we maintained the Alex Theater mostly as it was since the beginning. So thank you very much for the organizers, especially the managing director, Miles Williams. And also the second annual Women Equality Day. What an amazing event. Thank you to all the organizers. Great event. Thank you to the Status of Women Commission as well. And of course, big thanks to Council Member Elena Sadrian, as I know it was her idea. She started it last year, and this was the second one. It became an annual event. I'm really happy it became an annual one, and looking forward to attending it next year and as as I am able to attend, as long as I'm able to attend. And then other than that, to conclude, observing what's happening around the world, it's really devastating. And I can't help but wonder why that we became so ignorant and cruel in general. And I just wish the humanity a little more compassion, a little more patience, a little more love. I think that's what's missing in the world. So I would suggest us to conclude this meeting in the honor of innocent victims, if you agree with me, and may their souls rest in peace.
I think you get to choose that. You get to make that decision. But well said.
What decision do I get to make?
To conclude.
To conclude the
but
meeting.
I want to say
Thank you.
well said.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, I had a comment.
I do too.
Oh,
Yeah, so we're almost at
sorry,
adjournment.
I
No,
wanted to
go
make
ahead,
sure we're
please.
not moving to the next item.
Go ahead, and then I'll
Okay.
comment.
If we can put up on the slide, and I think this is a good segue for what Lily had just mentioned. I think we in the city of Glendale have an opportunity to bring people together, take this opportunity we have as staff and as commissioners to build community and grow community and coalitions. And so I wanted to share an event that is coming up on September 28th. This is an event by Walk Bike Glendale. And perhaps they should have hired Beth Brooks to figure out how on earth to share all this information on one flyer. So we'll see if they did a good job. I'm sure Beth will let me know. But there's a lot going on that day. It's going to be at Verdugo Park. There's a kids skills course for kids who are wanting to learn how to ride a bike safely. There's an adult bike lesson. So if you're an adult and you didn't have the opportunity to learn how to ride a bike as a kid, you can sign up for a slot to be taught how to ride that day. There's going to be bike repair, maintenance classes. We're also doing other things like yoga. We're going to walk up to the Sunshine Preserve, which is a really cool open space that was land that was donated to be preserved. So we'll be doing a walk up there. There's a run and a bike ride as well. And then there will be yard games like cornhole, big Jenga, and giving away safety gear. So whether you're walking or biking in the city, the event is equipping you with the safety gear. So it's reflective gear, helmets, what have you. All of those things will be available to the community for free. So I just wanted to share that's coming up on Sunday, September 28th. You can go on their website or follow them on social media for more information. I plan to be there and hope to see you there as well. And that's all. I just wanted to share the event with the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That looks really fun. I'll have to figure out how to do that and the farmer's market in the same time period, but that looks so cool. I just had a final comment. I wanted to give my appreciation to Tad Dombrowski. Oh, I'm messing up his name. He's a parking manager with Public Works, and he gave me, I know that others had a chance to have a tour of the parking facilities, just really fascinating. So it was such a nice chance to understand how those operations work in the city of Glendale. And that was just, getting out in the field and seeing stuff in real life is very rewarding. So I want to appreciate the city.
Did you get to carry the sack of, was it fat, the coin? Was it 25 cents? It was like 50 pounds
lift
or
a
something?
sack, but I saw them.
Okay.
It
was heavy.
It looked heavy. But I did get to ask him about all the random, I saw the coins that had been like not the right coin, coins from rejects in other countries and stuff, but very fascinating. And I'm pretty proud of our use and reuse of the same parking meter equipment for decades upon decades. That's pretty cool. So thank you. And with that, adjournment.
I will move with the request of Commissioner Agabegian. I think Avagian. I'm so sorry. I mixed the two last names. I'm so bad with names. I'm sorry. So that's the motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Have a good night. Right.
Roll call. No roll call? Nothing?
No roll call, just a motion and a second to adjourn.
Thank you. Have a good
all.
night.
Thank you.
Thank you, staff. Good night.